Hey, Spiritual Girls in a Material World with Kelly Sullivan Walden and Nancy T starts now.
Hello, everybody. Here we are. We are going to do part two. We are Spiritual Girls in a Material World. I'm Nancy T, and that's Kelly Sullivan Walden. We like to celebrate the bling, the ka-ching, and the Lola and everything. Yeah, no, we were just talking
Look
about.
at, she's got her bling.
Oh,
You see her little bling?
I love that she has her bling. I think that's muy importante.
And her cute little pink sweater. She's a little fashion. We're dressed
You know
alike.
what? The fact that you match, I admire that and respect it.
On a deep level, I know.
You know, on a deep level, not even kidding. I was talking to a friend today and we were talking, and in the middle of it, he goes, I like your shoes. And I was like, and I went right into the conversation about my shoes. He said, we were just talking about something completely different. You jumped in. I said, yeah, but you hit on one of my topics. So, speaking of topics, the topic we were just discussing in part one is
this is Me Too part two.
This is Me Too also.
Me Too part two.
Yeah. And I was just telling Kelly, I had one more little tiny story, and it's sort of how I fielded these comments as the years have gone by. I was telling a friend, we were talking about hiking, and he said, oh, you like to hike? And he said, would you like to go? And he gave me a certain date. I said, I can't, I'm doing auto show. And he said, what's auto show? And I said, you know, auto show when they come to town and there's a girl up on the stand and she's spinning around the car with the microphone. He goes, oh, are you wearing a bikini? And I said, yeah, that's what you need to think. He later told me, because we became very, very, very close friends, he later told me, man, you handled that like, you know, and he said, I felt like such a heel. And I said, I wasn't meaning to make you feel like a heel, but he goes, but you in such a concise way told me, wow, that was inappropriate. Gosh, you're a pig for thinking that. And we're much more than that. With just one little tiny statement, he said it was amazing. But he said, I felt like a jerk. I'll never say anything like that again. I thought, well, that's cool. But that's how I used to do it, is I would just go, yeah. That's how you need to, you know. It kind of let them know I'm not on that. That's not what I'm on. That's not on my page. But if that's where you are, feel free. Do your thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not participating. And
but you kind of did it with humor. You didn't do it with how dare you?
No slapping on the face. I've had many guys say that too. I was afraid you were going to smack me across the face if I said that. And I'm like, that's not my style. It's not my style.
I might think it. I might want to, but I won't do that.
It's just not. I don't need to do that. I always think if you're turning to violence, then obviously your words have failed you. And I believe in my words.
You know, Allison Armstrong, in her Celebrating Men, Satisfying Women workshop, she talks about the three archetypes in a woman. The, what does she call them? There's the queen, the mother, and the temptress. And she talks about how the temptress archetype is engaging and it's playful and she's sexy and it's like men want to participate with her. And I think you and I both have a lot of temptress energy where we are playful, and it's not just like sexy, like, hey there, big boy, and I feel like the queen aspect is the off with your head, I will kill you. And the mother archetype is just disgusted by that. But the temptress is kind of like, oh, you're just trying to engage, and that's maybe the only way you know how. And there's all kinds of compassion. I mean, I feel like I've come from a world of, oh, you can't blame them for trying. And of course they're going to try, and maybe that's all they know. And to interpret their cat calls or whatever as they're wanting to engage with you. It doesn't mean that they think you're a piece of trash. It just means that they are responding. So I know that there was, and I may have already talked about this on our show, and if so, tell me and I will stop. But there was a day way back in my early days of introspection and therapy and And when I was really looking at all, like let all the skeletons come out of the closet, and they all came out at once. I was barraged by skeleton bones. It's like there was hardly a Kelly underneath all those bones. It was just like, ugh. And I was so in the pain body of having been treated like a piece of meat. And I remember I was jogging around the park where I lived in North Hollywood at this time. And there were these guys that were driving alongside me slowly, and they were like making all kinds of comments and lewd gestures. And I felt so horrible. I felt so at the effect of this. And I felt like I can't even go jogging. I can't even exercise. And like, this is it's not even a safe world to be in. Did I tell you this story already?
I don't think so.
Okay, so they finally drive off, and I'm jogging around a different part of the park where cars couldn't follow. And I'm feeling really sorry for myself, really heavy. And all of a sudden, it seemed like the burning bush. There was a bougainvillea bush that was bright fuchsia, blindingly fuchsia. And I literally stopped in my tracks, and I stood there in front of it staring at it because it took my breath away. It was so beautiful to me. And I went and I touched it, and then I grabbed a little piece of like a couple of the leaves just to see, like, is it real? And I wanted to carry it with me. And then I jogged a few steps, and then I stopped again, and I went, oh my God, I'm just like those guys.
Oh.
I saw something that to me was beautiful, and
So
I wanted to touch it. I wanted to have a piece of it. And so I could take the beauty with me. And I went, oh my God, we're the same. And they're looking at me the way that I looked at that bush in a way. I mean, they may have had, their thoughts may have been more sexual than my thoughts. I didn't have a sexual thought about the bush, but it was, I felt like, oh my God, all of a sudden I went from feeling like I'm just a piece of meat and they're treating me like trash to feeling like I could spin this in another way and actually feel complimented and and think, well, they've got good taste. Good on them. Like, I have good taste that I had the thought to stop and appreciate this beautiful bougainvillea. It's like some people will walk right by that and not even notice it. And at one point I lived in Japan, and people in Japan are so polite. I didn't get a single cat call. I think I got one. And I actually felt deprived. I actually felt like, come on, people.
I've lost it, right? You thought you lost it?
Gestures. Not a one. Come on. I missed it. But I think the last thing I want to say, unless you want to say something about that before I have my little button.
I understand, because sometimes I will get to the point where I'm used to maybe men saying nice things to me, and then they don't. And I'll say, I just, nobody's saying anything. I'm all washed up. I'm old and I'm dried up. And then someone will point out, well, you haven't left your house in 3 weeks. Okay, fine, whatever. Right. I guess you do have to go out and about and see people for that to happen. But
right.
Okay, if that's your point. So I know what you're saying, and how enlightened of you to see yourself plucking at that bush and taking your little leaf on your way, and then recognizing that that's very similar. And I like showing the compassion towards men, towards people who overtly say things that maybe they shouldn't, but maybe that is their only method of communication that they can come up with, or maybe they're too afraid to say something else, or maybe they think that's what we want to hear, or maybe, the excuses that I'll make for a select few who really don't mean anything by it.
Right.
Like my friends who have said, I'm so sorry if I ever said the wrong thing. I didn't mean to. I know for sure they probably never did do the Weinstein, but yet they thought about it enough. And I love that this campaign is bringing that. I
think it's only the really good men that would even think to have the notion to apologize. I think it is the exception to the rule of the creeps. I think that's like the 1 or 2 or 3% at the most that justify their behavior. But I think, one last little thing. When I was at Mardi Gras years ago for my sister's 21st birthday, everyone's walking around saying, show your tits. And I was like, oh, that is horrible. And by the end of the week, I was like, no one's asked to see my tits in like a day. What's wrong? Don't you want to see my tits? Anybody?
You were walking around with your shirt over your head. Nobody was talking to you.
Nobody
What the
even
heck?
noticed. I got not a single bead.
Running into things. You can't see a thing because your shirt's over. Yeah.
But
those
but I
days are
do
rough.
think years ago when the Conversation with God books came out, we always have to mention the
Yes.
book in our show.
Yes. I
So
loved
I can't
that.
remember which in the series. I think it was like the third or the fourth in the series where Neil Donald Walsh is talking about the highly enlightened beings, the Hebs, Hebs.
Yeah.
And there was some part where their response to him was, we should all live our lives as if everything we thought and did would end up on the cover of People magazine the very next day. And we should live our lives that way because partly, technology is going to move in the direction where there will be very little to hide anyway. Like,
Boy, was he right.
Boy, was he right. And that was way
Look at
back
us
when.
now. Look at us now.
But we should also just live that way anyway, because
Yeah.
why spend time having to do all of the emotional math? Well, who did I tell this to? And why did I? So it's like letting things be exposed, not in a Harvey Weinstein kind of a way.
Yeah.
I mean, the kind where you just are just open, honest, transparent, let the cat out of the bag and let the secrets come out. Let the skeletons be out. And once they're out, I feel like now we could do something about them. And this just happens to be the season of this particular kind of witch. This is the time when this is out. And I think anytime there's exposure, it's ultimately a good thing. I think people will be more accountable going forward. I think there's going to be a lot of healing. I actually feel healed having had this conversation, these two conversations with you, Nancy T.
Yeah, me too. Oh, I didn't mean.
Me too. Me too, part two. Okay. So on that note, I think we'll wrap this up in a nice little bow and just thank you for your listening and your watching. And what about your Me Too story? Do you have one? Do you know somebody that has one? I bet you can't go. I don't think you can go through this life without there being some form of a you too, Me Too, and you too, and not the band, but you know what I mean. So what's your Me Too story? And what do you think about all of this? And what do you think about letting all the skeletons run free? And like, what do you think about all that? So we'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts, your suggestions. And you can join us if you're finding this video somewhere other than Facebook. Find us on Facebook and like us at Spiritual Girls in a Material World and share it with all your friends, especially the Me Too's out there. And you can go directly to Nancy T to find more about her. Her Facebook is A to Z with Meryl and me, and mine is Kelly Sullivan Walden, doctor, spelled all the way out. Dream. And that's all I got to say to you now. So namaste and namasko. Bye.